Hello, in this video I'm covering the game between Radoslaw Wojtaszek and Daniil Dubov from round 4 of European Team Championship. The opening was greenfield. And here, after taking on d5, knight takes d5, Dubov chose bishop d2. The reason behind this is to, when black captures on c3, to capture with the bishop and to oppose this bishop on g7, which is usually very strong in the greenfield. First, black plays c5 here. White strikes in the center with e4. He took, and now black can also play bishop g7 here, giving up this pawn. But white would not take this pawn because of bishop c3 probably. After bc, queen a5, you attack both pawns, and in case of queen d4, just castle, knight c6, and white has a slight issue in development. Also, the c5 pawn is going to hang anytime, so it's not worth extra pawn. So in this position, if this was played, probably something like d5 would be considered and exchanging those bishops off. And I think that white would be slightly better because he has more space. And also, after the exchange of bishops, white would have f4, knight f3, a very strong center. And there's a game between Anand and Nepomniachtchi, where Anand just crushed him in less than 20 moves. So here black took on d4 first. Bishop takes, and now e5. And if white takes on e5, black has bishop b4. And now king e2 is very, very suspicious because of queen e7. And now you cannot capture the rook because of checkmate on e4. And if you try to defend the bishop by queen d4, then you run into knight c6. And if you try queen d5 even, then black can simply castle and play rook d8 next. So it's not really that good. A bishop c3 is the only move that could have been considered. Now black can capture, and go queen a5, attacking c3 pawn. Let's say white plays queen c2, knight c6, knight f3. White still has some problems with the development, and even if he solves those problems, the c3 pawn will be very weak in the end, and it will compensate for the pawn. So instead he went for bishop c3. He said, no, I'm not gonna open the position up, I'm just gonna keep it symmetrical. Black answered with bishop d6, bishop b5 and knight c6. And they develop more and more. Here, if he takes on c6, bc6, you cannot capture on e5 because queen g5 is very strong and you're going to lose the g2 pawn because of the double attack on the knight and the pawn. And if bishop takes, then bishop takes and you lose a piece. In case he puts first this check, then you can take like this, and after knight e5 to go rook e8. And then you take on e4 and the position is better for black. So here he castled, he waits with this bishop c6 and capturing on e5. First he puts his king into safety. But now queen e7, defending this pawn, h3, stopping any pin on g4, f6, and now takes on c6. He decides to weaken the pawn structure, but to give up the bishop pair, which is always kind of tricky concession to make, because long term this bishop pair might prove to be a big advantage, but also long term this pawn structure on the queen side might prove to be very important. So black has to somehow open up the position, and black has to, first of all, maybe exchange one of bishops, let's say bishop on c3 for bishop on d6, and second of all, to try to make an outpost for his knight. In this case, it might be c4 square, or some other, maybe c5. After queen a4, black is giving up this pawn, hoping that he would open up the position. Rook fd1. Here, if he tries to take on c6, now black has rook fc8, queen a4, and now queen b7. Now the bishop on c3 is very, very passive because of the b2 pawn. It needs to defend. White cannot really use his extra pawn just yet. He needs some time to play moves like rook b1, rook c1, defend the bishop on c3, and then maybe go on. But also black is not going to sit and wait. He threatens to go rook c4 next to capture the pawn. So white has to be reactive still. Knight d2, And now a5, going even for bishop b4 ideas, and I think that black has plenty of compensation here, because if you try rook fc1 here, bishop c5 is very annoying because of queen b6 and targeting f2 pawn. So instead of capturing on c6, white played the rook fd1. Here a5 was played, and here white took on c6 because now capturing is with the tempo on the bishop on d6. Bishop c5, queen a4, and now rook fc8. Rook c1 and queen f7, targeting the a2 pawn. b3, and he goes back to b7. Bishop e1, and now king f7. Rook c2, and now king e7. King h2, and now g5. If bishop d7 was played, then queen c4 escapes, and this queen is going to run free. Dubov plays g5 here, and white makes a huge mistake. He plays bishop a5. If he played just rook cd2, the position would be quite level. White cannot really use his pawn because now, after pushing b3, his queen on a4 is stuck. And also a3 is impossible because of bishop b3. It's quite a balance we have in this position. Also, black has to be careful not to overextend on the king side, because if he does something like h5, rook d3 and g4, now all of a sudden white has a chance to strike with knight h4, getting to f5 and challenging this bishop on e6. Because it's a really tough question. Do you want to eliminate the knight, which is annoying, on f5, or do you want to weaken your light squares near your king? In the game, bishop a5 was played, and now you can pause the video if you wish to find the winning move. I'll give you a couple of seconds. The winning move is rook takes a5. And now the point is that after queen takes, which was played, bishop b4 by black. And now the rook on c2 is hanging. Also, the queen is under attack. Black just played this, and now he's a piece up. Wojtaszek played a3, but now after bishop d6, white resigned because he has no compensation whatsoever for a lost piece, except the two pawns, but he's going to lose one of them, either on b3, because if he plays b4, then he loses e4 or f2. If he defends f2, then he loses b3. So it's totally hopeless position, and that's why Wojtaszek resigned in this position. Thank you so much for watching, and have a nice day. Bye.